Welcome to Deep River Farm, folks. I appreciate you joining me today. Wanted to talk with you a little bit about how to use less water in your garden. Your biggest problem with the water is in the summertime, the heat and the wind. The heat and the wind will evaporate your water. And as many of you know, water can be at times hard to come by, especially if we have a drought and you don't have a water supply that you can tag on to. So you need a way to make that water in your soil last as long as possible. The way you do that is once you get your plants planted, say for instance this cabbage, it's not as important in the winter to do this as it is the summer. But like this cabbage here, I've got coming up, is forming a head now. What you'll want to do is get you a mulch to go around the plants. Now, in the early spring, this mulch also serves as insulation to tender plants. So if the temperatures get down into the upper 30s, mid 30s, and it looks like it might frost or something, you can let them leaves, use them leaves as an insulator for your plant, and just put you a bucket over it. You don't have to worry about the cold coming in on them, on those plants with your leaves. Or you can also use straw as that'll help that as well. But if you'll take, I take this year's leaves myself, and I've got a grinder that grinds the leaves up. It's like a big drum, and you just take and put the leaves in it, and it just churns them up with weed eater string on the inside, and it mulches these leaves up into little tiny particles. And I usually bring that and fill that up, and I usually fill up my my feed bags. That's what I use. I'll take and pour and let all them leaves go into a box, and then I'll put all them leaves into a feed bag, and I'll throw them on my trailer. And that way, when I get here, I can take that feed bag under my arm and just kind of spread them out, and then rake them around my plants and things. And what that does is when it rains, all your water goes through these leaves. It goes down into your soil, and it stays wet and moist down in there. And if you have a prolonged time where you don't have any rain coming in, those leaves continue to hold moisture to aid your plants and keep them moist. Now, if you go for a long time, maybe 3 or 4 weeks without water, you may need to water that a little bit just to get that continued dampness in there so that your plants don't starve for water. If your plants start starving with water, they start wilting. You'll notice that right off of the bat. If it's tomatoes or anything like that, if you don't have steady, consistent watering, your tomatoes will crack. So that's something you don't want. You want to keep your stuff consistently moist and wet, but not too wet. And you want to make sure that you're using as less of water as possible, because you know, if you hadn't got a water source, you want to protect all them plants and make sure that you've got what you need and they've got what they need. And then if you've got well water or something like that, you don't want to have to use too much of that, so you don't run your well dry if it's been a dry period. Especially if you got you know, things that you're doing with that well other than watering the garden. You might have a couple of houses on that same vein around your area that's on that same water supply that your well's on. So you want to not use any more than you have to. But using mulch, that's the best way to save water, and it also helps you plants as well by mulching around them. You can use straw, leaves. Some people use pine shaving chips and things like that. And if you think about it, using leaves and straw and things like that, it's an organic material. It'll continue to break down. You can leave that in your garden, and the next year you've got more organic stuff in your garden that you can use, and it's good for your soil. Remember, always feed your soil and not the plant. I appreciate you joining me today on Deep River Farm. I hope everybody has a blessed evening.